Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to another episode of What's on the Playlist today. Today, I want to talk about a album called uh, "Let It Be" by Voice of the Beehive, an image of which you will see here. Um, so, Voice of the Beehive is a band that was around for not very long. Late. What's the date on this sucker? Come on. Late 80s, early 90s. It's like everything I just read just flew out of my head. Anywho, they were a indie punk, indie alternative band from late 80s, early 90s. They were on long enough to put out 3 albums. Let It Be is their debut album. The band was formed by two sisters, Tracy and Melissa, who moved from California to London, managed to team up with a couple of guys from the British band Madness, which had some popularity in the mid 80s in the UK, and a couple other people to write music and play songs. The band had a certain amount of popularity to it, and their debut album actually was fairly successful in the UK. I think it peaked at 15 on the UK charts. It had some limited success in Australia, but never really gained any popularity here in the US. I found out about them, like most of my weird little things during that era, through one of my friends. I went back to my hometown, bumped into one of my old high school friends. We tooled around town in his car, and he was playing me just a mixtape he had. One of the songs from this album was on it, and I was kind of hooked. The band's vocals are all done by the two sisters, and this album, in particular, is pretty much a collection of bittersweet love songs. But given that that's the overall general theme of the album, there's a lot of variety in the sounds. I mean, Beat of Love starts off, which is, sounds kind of poppy, more like a pop, kind of a pop song with some alternative mix to it. Next song is Sorrow Floats, which is definitely a slow, melancholy ballad. And at the end of the album, there's a song called "There's a Barbarian in the Back of My Car," which definitely has a harsher, more of a punk rockish sound. Man in the Moon is kind of quirky. The guitar is high string. I almost want to say it's a ukulele, but if it is, it's an electric ukulele. Definitely playing on the high strings there. And there's a lot of variety in beat and tempo in the songs, despite the common theme. Some of the songs, like Sorrow Floats, are slow, melancholy. Some of them are upbeat and kind of peppy, even in spite of the lyrics being, when you listen to them, kind of down. This album just really, it's one of those albums that I bought based on the strength of a single song. And that song was "There's a Barbarian in the Back of My Car." I just thought it was funny. And it is probably the funniest song in the album. The rest of the songs aren't very humorous. That one just kind of made me chuckle. The other songs are much more serious. And they just, based on the strength of that one song, I bought the entire album and really fell in love with the whole thing. And this is definitely one of my favorite albums of that era. Not sure if I put it in my, top 100 or not, but this is one of those albums that I can just play front to back, crank it on high, and just really enjoy the whole thing. The US release did have a couple of bonus tracks, though. If you look at the back liner cover, it lists 11 songs. But if you pop it open, it's got tracks 12 and 13, which doesn't really offer anything new. They're the same style. Where the tracks are this week, again, more of a up tempo, at least faster tempo than some of the other slower songs. and the last song is Jesus, which is another slow, kind of a slow ballad. You know, and the band really weaves back and forth between, you know, things that sound like definitely an alternative sound throughout the whole thing, but you've got things that more of alternative pop, alternative slow, alternative ballads, and then like the one or two songs that are more, you know, harder songs, you know, harder for the beat and tempo, and then harder for the barbarian song, which is, you know, a little punkish. So I think there's a lot of, you know, this album really showcases that they can write a wide variety of music. This was probably their highest ranking album. Their other two albums I still enjoy, but this album definitely was. This is a strong release for pretty much unknown band. I'm not, you know, I mean, like I said, the bassist and a drummer from Bandits joined them, but they didn't have as much of an influence in the songwriting. It was pretty much all Tracy and Melissa. One little quirk I learned when doing the research for this is that they got the name Voice of the Beehive from the one sister, Melissa. Apparently her name in ancient Greek means honeybee. So that's kind of where they got the name of the band, Voice of the Beehive, was from that little weird little detail. Anywho, this is actually, despite the fact that I managed to ramble for over 6 minutes, kind of a hard review for me to do because, like, there's not really much about this on the internet. You go to the Wikipedia page, there's like a paragraph for this album, and that's it. It tells you that you have bonus 13 tracks, you know. And the same thing for like Let It Be's Wikipedia page. There's not very much there other than what I've told you. It goes on for a bit longer, talks about their career and, you know, past this album. But information on this is actually pretty sparse, which surprised me because, well, like I said, it didn't really do well in the United States, but overseas it did fairly well. So I'm surprised there's so little information about a band that put out 3 albums over a span of 5 years. Yeah, I should be surprised at that. And I think I am because I really love the band so much. You know, if that sounds interesting to you, give it a listen. I definitely recommend it because I love the music. As always, thanks for watching. As always, this is crap. And until next time, good hunting.